The anomaly of the note. I do remember now. Okay, this is gonna be tough. I kind of want to press on everything here, because I'm not really sure what to say. And can you shed any light on the contents of the note at all? Nay, sire. 'Tis as strange to me as a foreign tongue. Even with a knowledge of literature as great as mine own, verily 'tis impenetrable. But Mr. Duncan Ross had lodgings in the same household as you. In effect, he was your neighbor, so surely you knew him, didn't you? Alack, if the choice is betwixt I knew him and I him not, then 'tis with foreboding that I be forced to declare we were by some small measure acquainted. Despite your claims, though, you followed the note's instructions and went to the Slug and Salad. Presumably, that was nothing to do with your knowledge of literature? Marry, naught will have the better of me, sire, save for the lure of curiosity. So, 'tis true, I was compelled by mine own eager heart to betake myself to the tavern. Yet in the end, my curiosity was not satiated. Nobody came to the Slug and Salad. So even after waiting for an hour, nobody appeared? Well, yes, sire. 'Tis as thou sayest. Really? You paused for a moment before you answered. In truth, when thou asked whether nobody appeared, I did suddenly recall. Really? Do you mean to tell the court that somebody did appear after all? I was not alone that night at the Slug and Salad, my lord. No, 'tis returning to me now. I did treat my lips to a almost clear water, and mine innards to a premium crust of bread. And all around me danced a great my many companions. What do you mean? Flies, sire, flies. Good lord. In the name of Beelzebub, what were they? Fairies, perchance, from a midsummer night's dream, come to taunt me? I think they were just flies. I can't help thinking that the flies ought to choose something more wholesome to buzz around. Is that wrong with me? Interesting comment. When exactly did you notice it had gone missing? Such idle thoughts near occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas. In other words, you didn't notice. Several days passed between your outing to the tavern and Mr. Natsume's visit to your room. Yes, it would appear that the note disappeared sometime in that interval. Such idle thoughts near occupy my mind. I am busy with greater ideas. And yes, during that time, Miss Green was comatose in the hospital, was she not? Clearly then, she could not have been stealing things from Mr. Shakespeare's room. Ah, yes, of course. It's all some sort of misunderstanding, isn't it, Mr. Prosecutor, sir? You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation as to how you came by the note. Oh. I'm not here to advocate for your defense, madam. I won't tolerate inconsistencies in your story. You would do well to remember that. Oh, dearie me. What Sword Frenzy's getting at? It seems that this note was actually delivered to Mr. Shakespeare about 1 week ago. Oh, does it? But for some reason, it ended up in your possession. I can't think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Mr. Shakespeare's lodgings. For what reason would the witness have done that? I won't deny that Miss Green's possession of the note would appear to defy logic. However, until and unless her involvement in this case can be proven in some other way, any further pursuit of this note is meaningless. Miss Green could have only come to be in possession of the note by stealing it from Mr. Shakespeare's room. And yet, there's no obvious reason why she would have done such a thing. What if there was some other reason she broke into his lodgings, though? Yes, we should pursue that idea, Mr. Naruhodo. We're close now. I can feel it. Close to a breakthrough. We're so close to a breakthrough. So you don't want to tell the court about the truth about the letter, is that it? I'm a fledgling artist, remember? Artists are nearly always introverted characters. Introverted? This fledgling doth readily cast aspersions about my nature. Yet I am an angel, a seraph. Birds do harmonize with my song. The wind doth frolic on my wing. Oh, pity, wherefore dost thou accuse one so pure of heart, ample woman? Pure of heart? I don't think so. Even a fledgling like me can see you're just a failure. Tragedy, thou shalt not know the true heart of an artist until thine instruction hereafter by death. Oh, the days, oh, the years, alas, to enlighten thee, thou must wait so long and in vain. Mr. Naruhodo, interject with some clever remark. This is your chance to shine. I'm no Shakespearean actor, Miss Susato. No, as far as I can tell, the only thing that's going to resolve this argument is evidence. Is evidence, yes. It's clear that Miss Green did in fact break into Mr. Shamspeare's room, isn't it? And that's where she found this letter. Yes, two or more or less foregone conclusions that lead me to one terrifying conclusion. Terrifying? Yes, I'm afraid to say. But the outcome of this cross-examination may well change how we look at this case completely. I think she was planning to poison him or something. Did you try the poison yet? I haven't. I guess we can try that. Maybe it's not too early. Maybe right now is the right time. Oh, okay. Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle. And though the contents spilled during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained. Oh! According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Sholmes' chemistry set, the liquid that was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine. What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Mrs. Shakespeare. Oh! Miss Green, you broke into the man's lodgings. For one reason, and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Mr. Shamspeare's room with poison. Can this be? You broke into my room to... It may seem incredible to the court. But from the remaining clues, there's only one logical conclusion that we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Order! Order! Counsel, are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the end of the gas pipe with the intent to kill? Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts. But if Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to the pipe that very evening as expected, the attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely. Well, that's a very good point. Perhaps not, my lord. I beg your pardon? There was a significant police presence in the area that evening, on the account of the incident on Briar Road. Local residents were being interviewed throughout the night as a part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would have likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at the time. Lord Van Zeeks. And of course, the following morning, there was more activity at Mr. Shamspeare's address. More activity? Yes. You mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Natsume, being arrested on suspicion of murder. That's right. And as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for a very sinister reason himself, to cause the gas stove in Mr. Natsume's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Mr. Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Mr. Shamspeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe. His intended victim, being in a prison cell, with the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant. And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right. Mr. Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end. The trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back was duly acquitted. That resulted in Mr. Natsume returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out. Mr. Shamspeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier. With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all part of the plan. What plan? The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell nobody else. The reason for those instructions are now clear. To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time. To make sure I wasn't home? She was standing on a box, yeah. They do that for all the short people, which is really funny. I'm glad they, put that little detail in there. Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing that she wouldn't be disturbed. You mean to say that letter was written by Miss Green? Yes. And in order to recover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room. Order! Order! What do you have to say for yourself, witness? Just who are you? Why did you try to kill me? Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial. So, that's what's behind all this. You'll share your apparent understanding with the court, please, counsel. Which person is behind this woman's motive, the attack on the victim's life? We know. Duncan's Ross. The love of Miss Green's life, who sadly passed away a month ago as a result of gas poisoning. Duncan Ross. That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in the lodgings on Mr. Garrido's, somebody else was renting the room. Mr. Duncan Ross. I knew I heard the name somewhere else. It was all over the papers a month ago, when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings. It was a gas meter attendant. That does ring a vague... of course, yes. I remember now. The young man they claimed was strangled by the convict's curse or some such. Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor it was an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shamspeare blowing into the gas pipe and causing gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple. Bruh! Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious deaths, that's all people care about. It's an interesting story. They want to know. It doesn't cross their minds that real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten him. You mean you? Duncan was? Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé. Fiancé? You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Mr. Shamspeare. But she's known exactly who you are, all along. Because you're her sworn enemy. The murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry. Marry? Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shamspeare, you smeared poison over the end of the gas pipe? This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, counsel, each on different counts of murder? Yes, my lord. That's correct. Inhaling so deeply, it appears that my fledgling, learned friend has taken in a lungful of dubious gas that's causing his judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Mr. Shamspeare have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You have completely failed to provide a motive to substantiate your accusation against the man. Yes, yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I have been lied. 'Tis lies, all lies. I deny every utterance. And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit to anything either. Miss Green. I'm sure you'll think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel. But you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what was your reason? Oh, I thought I'd have a look around, that's all. Sorry? You're right, I suspected him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence or something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life. Oh, vileness! Oh, villainy! Oh, tyranny! Oh, roundity of woman! But in any case, whenever I leave my room, I do turn the key in the lock. That whole place is falling apart. The locks on the doors are no different. Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door, with some tubs and a piece of wire. Oh, awfulness! Oh, artfulness! Oh, tyranny! Oh, profanity of woman! We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion. But for now, tell the court what you found, what evidence your search revealed. Well, I spotted the note that I'd sent him lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it, I discovered a secret hiding place. Eh? Yes, we also discovered that hiding place. Inside, we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box. Ah, yes, well, the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty. What? There was something in it? Yes. That's a rather nice key. What are you doing with that? What the? Every ounce of color streamed from his face. Hey, give it here! Give it here to me now! It's mine! I inherited it!
What was that, witness? What did you say? You inherited it?
No, What's all this about? He inherited that key? It was obviously important to you since you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I don't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care. Give it back this minute! Give it to me!
Calm yourself, witness.
So Mr. Champster has tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers now. Yes, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true that there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shamspeare, at first. But considering everything we now know, I think there is actually something that could explain it.
What?
I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal. Everything we've seen and heard. Because I'm sure that I just caught the glimpse of the link that runs through all of these events.
In that case, counsel, I must demand that you present evidence to the court in support of your claim.
What is it that you say can explain the motivation for Mr. Shamspeare's alleged crimes? Well. So let me read this. So I don't want to spoil it until we reveal it in the story. Shouts of his fellow cellmate. Secondhand receipt. The haunted lodgings. William Shamspeare. Oh, that's his thing. Okay. Oh well, I guess we don't need the newspaper clipping because it's in here. Convicted murderer, burglar. So he had the 1,000 pounds of loot. Remains undiscovered. Explain the motivation for Mr. Champspeare's alleged crimes. It must be this. right? I'm pretty sure. The capital offenders file.
That's an official police report, is it not? The Selden file. How did you get a hold of that? Selden?
The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them. The fact that they had lodgings in the same room.
Well, yes, we know this certainly. A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries. I see.
And it so happens that the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died.
The some £1,000 worth of loot that he stole,
which as yet remains to be found.
Ah, yes, of course. It's coming back to me now. It's written in this file here.
£1,000 lost en route to hell. That was how the paper summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely regarded secret, the location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key to unlock whatever container the valuables were in.
Ah, you mean this key is...
Mr. Shamsbury, it was you, wasn't it? Oh, pounds. Yeah, as in money, since they're, British. Yep. You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not?
What are you talking about? It is a false charge, I tell you. A false charge!
The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death is noted in this file. A simple telegram to the prison where he died would quickly tell us how false the charge really is.
But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the convict's lodgings?
There's only one explanation for that, my lord. Oh, okay, everything makes sense now, I understand. It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot.
So, it all comes out.
Yes. And having established that, all of Mr. Shamsbury's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense.
When he was let out of the prison following Selden's death, he made it immediately for Mr. Garrodeb's lodgings in the hope of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice.
Because Selden's old room had already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross.
Ah! Which is why Mr. Shamsbury subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of the room. And when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room.
However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it.
Mr. Ryunosuke Natsume, the defendant of this case, no less.
So you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamsbury? This time to oust Mr. Natsume. All for one simple, avaricious reason. To get your hands on the £1,000 of loot left behind by the dead convict. Wow.
Looks like I'm gonna snuff it before they get to stretch me neck. Listen, I want you to have my loot. Anything to stop the coppers from getting their mitts on it. It's hidden in the room where I was lodging when they got me. Yeah. This is the key to it. Take it. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See you in hell, I guess. Shamsbury.
Dang, that's a lot of money.
Mine. What did he just say? It's mine. That loot is mine.
Mr. Shamsbury?
It's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why would I? After all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me. For the time being, anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close. I should need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it. I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up? There's no question in my mind now. This man is guilty through and through. But he seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid, however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a way. Pardon? There's one way I can finish him. No! He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot. Which means all we need to do is find it first. A fine plan. Were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed. Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule. If only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. I know what it is. You can use Mr. Sholmes' spray thing. This is the final piece in this complex puzzle. But I think we might have it in our possession already. Or rather, I think we may have something that can help us find where the loot is hidden. 130k. That's a lot of money. My lord. Yes, counsel. The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. I believe you are already in possession of something that can give us a clue as to its whereabouts. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth a gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then. Very well then, counsel. Let the court hear your idea. What do you propose we can use in order to locate the hiding place of the deceased convict's hole? This, right? If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Jamsier's handprints on the wall of his lodgings. That's right, my lord. Exposed as a result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective, Mr. Sholmes. A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title? I should think the great bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Sham-Spear. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title. Ah! It is Sherlock Sholmes himself! What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts are the filthy back streets of the capital, are they not? Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long, and I see your complexion has worsened since we last met. Mr. Sholmes! He does know Lord Van Zeeks, then. Well, enough to say something like that in any case. Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, that does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom as you see fit. If I may, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us to uncover vital clues in this case already. Clues, you say? I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we were able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities. Ah! You need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you had been holding. Elementary. So now, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, yes? What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time? Thank you for offering to help, Mr. Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what is now Suzuki-san's room. We need a sample to locate Selden's loot that's hidden in his old room. What form will the sample take? Present evidence or present a person? We don't have anything that he would have had, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we would present maybe the key that Miss Green has. We'll need something of Selden's in order to create the indicator solution to find his loot. And something the convict owned happens to be in possession of somebody listed in the court record.
Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So, which particular person do you have in mind? From whom can we obtain a possession of the late convict Selden to create the indicator solution?
Miss Green.
Ah, me? What do you want with me?
The key around your neck, if you please.
Sorry?
The key belonged to Selden. There will be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface that we can use.
Very shrewd.
That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out exactly what Selden touched in the room that he used to rent.
Mr. Shakespeare, as one great to another, I assure you. The late convict's hall is hidden somewhere in his former lodgings. I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes.
So, Mr. Shakespeare, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on Selden's stolen wealth.
In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Jones have this key. No! Give the key to me! The detectives shan't have it!
It's over, Mr. Shakespeare.
No. No!
You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt.
Whoa. Oh, shameful spear, despair, be thy name.
I like how he, like, exploded with confetti. That was kind of impressive.
I never intended to kill the man. I just wanted to drive him out of the room. That's all.
So you'd have time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods.
Yet after you killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room. I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused.
Why?
He was 3 months behind with the rent, for one thing.
Mr. Garrett really has had a lot to put up with.
And he had the cast repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then, this Japanese man swooped in at just the right moment to sign the new lease.
Poor Mr. Natsume. What unfortunate timing.
Then, 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road, when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance, but it wasn't to be. No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day.
And, if I remember rightly, Mr. Jones spent the whole day in there reading books.
I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot.
Which was why, on the day Mr. Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, he once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds the stove in his room.
Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you into a deadly trap. William Shakespeare, how does it go? To be or not to be, that is the question. From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. Well, let me tell you, in your case, it's not to be. That is the answer. You deserve to die for what you've done. At first, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Duncan died. The gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive. The gas supply? Yes,
The soul always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke. They say it's the convict's curse. Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is. All right then, if it's that important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There's spare rooms. There's spare rooms in my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? No, I'd better not. We said we'd wait until we graduated before we told our parents, remember? That was the last time we'd ever spoke. That very night, he fell victim to the gas. That's so sad. If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted he left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school. Something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw a stooped Eastern-looking man with a mustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up to the road to grub scrubbery for some food, so I followed him and sat myself down next to him. He had some watery-looking soup and started to pick a quarrel with the publican. That place is cursed, I tell you! Cursed! The ghost of that convict who used to live there is trying to suffocate me! I'd wake up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove has gone out. The room was full of gas and I could hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked. No problem there. It's like I'm the problem. That's what they're thinking. But how could that be? Duncan was gone and now this man has almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? Then I remembered. A rumor I heard about how the gas companies go around investigating gas installations. A rumor? Ah, you mean? Yes, everybody's heard the stories, it seems, about how they go around checking the pipes. How anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework. That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind. It just wouldn't go away. Was it really an accident, though? Once I had had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I bought this at one of the black markets in the East End. A black market? I'd never been. I just heard people talk about them. And you really can buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out one way or another. Was Duncan's death an accident? Or was it murder?
And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple, but highly effective. Smell poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with. Then wait.
If Mr. Shamster was innocent, nothing would come of what you've done. But if he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes dearly. Found out the name of the man I suspected. William Shamspeare. And then I wrote him this little note. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. If he'd done it, I knew that would worry him enough, so he'd be sure to go. So I waited to see if it worked.
And of course, Mr. Shamspeare followed the instructions to the letter.
Worked out where the gas pipe was straight away, so I smeared a good amount of poison I'd bought, all around the mouth of the pipe, and all the time praying that the devil's work wouldn't be done, and it was all some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done, and that the culprit would get his just desserts. Dang. In the first game, we only thought she was like a completely innocent lady, but it turned out not to be the case.
3 days ago, when you were first stood in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward.
Yes, my lord.
I certainly never imagined the depths of the depravity that we should subsequently find lurking behind the scenes. It has been a long road, my Japanese friend.
Oh, yes.
And one I certainly didn't envision walking with you. Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green.
Yes, my lord.
You will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shakespeare.
Yes, I know.
And you, Mr. Shakespeare, you will be tried for the murder of Mr. Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Sosuke Natsume here present.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Ah, yes?
Yesterday, at the hospital, when you and your friend stopped me from
ending your life by drinking what was left in the poison bottle.
I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. It's a question that's so hard to answer, it seems.
Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green.
Oh.
And I like to believe that it's a blessing Mr. Shakespeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least.
Because of you, I chose life, not death. And now, you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough. Oh, Miss Green.
Mr. Sosuke Natsume.
Yes, my lord.
The court declares that you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I will call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty. We are in full agreement, my lord. In that case, I hereby declare the defendant not guilty.
Yahoo!
Fireworks in the courtroom. Court is adjourned. February 3:24 p.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. Fire hazard.
Oh, yes. Yes. At last. Divine justice duly done.
Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that mustache.
No, has nothing to do with my mustache.
Some say that a luxuriant mustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Once again, you saved me from doom. I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. You're second in almost as many days. I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature whilst in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived a life through friendly old books.
You've had such a difficult time, haven't you?
Ah, but a week ago now. I dragged you out of that dark and dingy room of yours, did I not?
You did, and I've seen more life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that's so far been hiding from me behind the wall of fog.
My dear fellow, there's nothing special about the true face of the English as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. There are few genuine differences.
Yes, I think you're right. I finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place.
It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're just all doing our best to live.
Well said. I'm going to feel the same way.
I've made a decision too. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan.
What? Just when we become friends here in England? What a terrible shame.
Oh, I know. That does tug at my heartstrings, it really does. But I've decided I'd like to take everything I've learned here in Britain and write something of my own. A novel of sorts, I suppose.
Oh my! So you'll be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsume? How wonderful!
Oh, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature. Why not? When that is precisely the definition, Mr. Mustache. I suppose you're right, yes. It will, in a way, be literature. But as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur.
I, for one, would love to read your work. He's going to get immediately arrested when he goes back to Japan. Oh, man.
Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you've once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper.
That's very true. And there's no salvation for a person in the dock when the Reaper is the prosecutor.
The desire to return post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand.
My goodness, yes. Faced with such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure.
But that's not why I'm leaving. I mean it. Objection!
Ha 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 ha. And that was the case that we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. Sosuke-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Mikotoba was prompted to visit the scholar. And barely any time later, Suzuki-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well, on the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial, on the following day. The day that we uncovered the loot, hidden by the now-deceased convict in his former lodgings. Oh yeah, we don't know what it is. Is it really just a bunch of money? I'm curious to find out. 24th February, 10:13 a.m., Mr. Natsume's room. Oh, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you. To uncover the secret hiding place in just one day. Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes?
As I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations.
Let me sip some water. Sorry. I know my gulping is like unusually loud, so I'm sorry if the mic caught any of that.
Wouldn't you agree, Gregson?
Grexy's been happily munching in agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Happily? I think perhaps humorlessly might be closer to the truth.
So, it transpires that the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling.
And what's in it? What exactly is the loot?
Let us look then, if you're ready. Let's examine the late burglar's hole.
Ooh, what is it? What is that? Oh, what is that? What is that? It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar. A collar? It's huge though. And look at all the gemstones set in it. I can see why it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Oh, I can see why it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Perhaps I should have it as a belt. Oh, have you noticed on the inside there? There are some dark stains. You don't think they could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it. On second thoughts, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. Never apologize for hydration, thank you. Then of course there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown. What does this signify, do you think? Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know. Where could it have been?
That's enough of that, I think. What?
What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color is drained from his face.
Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, won't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key. Ah, yes. Get your grubby hands off that, you lot. Hand it over, now.
So it must be related to this mysterious thing that's happening. I've never seen a collar that large before. All those jewels certainly look to be extremely valuable. But that's not what stood out the most to me. At least, not once I noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar. Those stains. Do they really have in blood? That was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now. And you look very pleased, Iris. I am, because I'm starting to wonder what I could use as the basis of this month's story in the magazine. This case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating. You're talking about the latest installment of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I presume. The mystery of the knife in the mist, and the mustached man and the convict's curse, perhaps. I can make it a 2-part story. Oh, I can't wait.
A word, please, Iris.
Yes? What is it, Hurley?
I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question.
What? Why not? It's a great case.
Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your 2 titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear?
Yes. And so, it was that the second of Soseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity. Now looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that the events began to unfurl again. With an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London. End.